Let's talk about one of the most important decisions we can make about our .cms installation, and that is how we label and organize our content, or our taxonomy. Creating an appropriate taxonomy for our site allows us to organize our content according to keywords, relationships, and make it easier for our site users to find content they're interested in. This enables us to more easily create good dynamic content pulls to display information that's appropriate to our pages and our various users. Of course, when discussing taxonomy, one of the first things to consider is how we're going to do this. We need some pre-planning done ahead of time. The same way that we might discuss how to organize folders in a filing cabinet, we want to make sure that we label and segregate our content as it's entered into our content repositories so that our dynamic pages will naturally pull and display that content in a logical manner. This pre-planning is so important because improper use of a taxonomy can make content creation redundant and confusing and make it really difficult to dynamically extract content for our front-end users. So we really recommend that you pre-plan your use of taxonomies before building out the site. That way you can leverage the power of taxonomies and really simplify your content creation and site maintenance. It's much more difficult to go back later and label content after it's already been entered into the system than to create it correctly from the beginning. For more information on taxonomies and the appropriate best practices when creating taxonomies for your site, definitely check out our .cms documentation site. Now, the three main features we'll be discussing here in this video are tags, categories, and relationships. Let's start by discussing tags. Tags are keywords that are associated with any piece of content, and we can create queries to search for content by those tags. Whenever a user needs to find content by a keyword search, but we don't know ahead of time what keywords will be associated with that content, tags are usually the best choice. Things like news items, press releases, etc. are content types that are typically going to have tag fields because of the limitless number of topics that they can cover. Tags allow our users to more easily find content which matches almost any subject and even one that is added at some time in the future. Before we can use tags to organize our content, we need to make sure that the content type has a tag field. Here in my content types, if I scroll down for my destinations content type, I can click on that. And if I scroll down here, we'll see there is a tags field already in this content type. Now I could click the pencil icon and we could modify this, but you'll see it has a name as simple as tags. And it's not currently user searchable, but we could make this user searchable if we wanted to. This would allow users to search for the content within this field. I'm going to click cancel, but note that if our content type did not have a tags field, we could scroll down on the right-hand side and click and drag a tag field right in to our content type. Once we have a tag field, we can apply tags to our content. Now you'll notice under content model in our navigation, we can see tags. If I click on the tags option, we'll see all of the tags that are a part of our host. We can also see which site those tags are applied to. Now, if I wanted to add a new tag, I could click the blue plus sign in the top right and choose Add Tag. Here we could add a tag for something like, say, wildlife. We want to know which of our destinations or resorts have a nice wildlife experience with them. So we can add a tag for wildlife, and then we can apply that tag to any of those destinations. However, this isn't the only way to add tags. We can also add tags ad hoc, meaning whenever we're creating content within a content type that has a tag field, we can just go ahead and type in the various tags we'd like to add to it. This is one thing that makes tags extremely useful, because those tags can be applied later on, even if when creating that content type, we didn't know exactly what those tags might be in the future. Here we can see our tags. Now you may recall we saw tags during our front-end overview in the shop. I can filter here and search for snowboarding. Remember, we saw this tag and used it to only look at items that are related to snowboarding. So that's one of the ways tags can be used to organize things like our blogs, our destinations, our products. We can use tags to search, to organize, and to dynamically add content to our site. Next, let's talk about categories. You can see under Content Model, we have the option for categories next. Categories are very similar to tags, but there is a main difference. Tags allow content creators to create new labels at any time, which makes them extremely helpful for difficult to predict values, and tags. However, categories are predefined labels, and those labels are created only by our site administrators. So, content contributors can't create new categories, but they can choose from a list of categories that's been predefined. One great benefit to categories is that they are hierarchical. You can add subcategories to any category and allows us to organize large numbers of categories in a logical way, and allows our content creators to choose from among a broad top-level category to a highly specific subcategory at a much lower level. Let's go back to our content types. Here, if I scroll down and look for my product content type, I could select it here, and here I can see a category field. I could click on the pencil icon to edit that, and we can see that this category uses the product line categories. Now, if I click cancel, we won't save any changes, but we could go to a different content type, like say region, and we could add a category field here. If I click and drag category from the right-hand side, I can drop it into my fields and add a new category. If I go back to my content types, this time let's scroll down and find our destination. If I select destination, we'll see here that we don't currently have any category fields. We know because the icon is here, which we don't see listed. I can click and drag a category field into my fields and add a new category. Now we can provide a name for our category, like say, type of stay. We can add a key, and we can provide any keywords as well. Then I can click Save, and it'll ask us if we'd like to add any other categories. We can click Cancel for now. Now we can click on our type of stay category. We can add our individual entries to our type of stay. Now we've created our type of stay category, but remember this is just the top level. Now if I click on type of stay, I could view any subcategories I had within the type of stay category. We don't have any, so let's create some. I'll click the blue plus sign in the top right again and choose Add. Now here I can choose any subcategories that I think might be fitting. Since this is for our type of stay, let's add, say, resort. Then we can add a key, and this key should be unique. In this case, I'll just say resort. We could apply any keywords once again. In this case, I'm just going to click Save. Then it tells us it's saved, and we can add another. So let's do that. Let's add a hotel. Click Save. A hostel. And a private rental. Once we're done, we can click Cancel. And now we have the subcategories created within our category. Now that we have our type of stay category, let's go back to our content types under Content Model. Here, we can scroll down to our destinations content type. I can click on it, and once here, I can click and drag a category field into my fields. Here, we can say type of stay, and select our type of stay category that we created. We could allow this to be user searchable if we wish, and we could click Save. Now we have added a type of stay category to our destination. Now there are some limitations to be aware of when it comes to categories. For instance, if you have a large number of labels that you need to add, categories may not be your best choice. By rule of thumb, your initial category list should contain no more than about 30 labels. Your category list is likely to grow as you continue to scale, and it can become unwieldy if that number of categories is not limited. Also, although you can have any number of levels of hierarchy to your categories, for instance, we have type of stay and then the various types of stay within that, we recommend that you don't use more than 2 levels of categories. This is mainly because it's difficult for our content creators to find specific categories that are 3 or more levels deep. Also, categories should be used for logical labels only. If you need to label content with information that's more than just a simple label, such as a department that could include an address or a phone number, we recommend using relationships instead. So let's talk about relationships. We want to build a relationship between our destination and our region content types. Now, it's important to create our relationship in the correct location. We're here in our destination content type, but I want to go back to my content types here under Content Model and locate my region content type. Now that I'm here, I'll scroll down and note I don't currently have any relationships. You'll also notice there's a relationship tab, and we can see there are no relationships to display. If I go back to my Fields tab, I can scroll down on the right side and find my relationships field in my fields list. I can click and drag this into my fields on the content type and create a new relationship. Now let's create a name for this relationship. We'll call this our related destinations. Once we've added our name, we can choose whether this is a new or existing relationship. If we already created the relationship prior, we could choose existing, but this is a new relationship, so we'll choose new. Then we want to choose the content type to relate to. We'll click select content type, and we'll find our destination content type here. We'll select that. And next we'll choose what type of relationship we're looking at. What we're looking for here is the cardinality of that relationship, or essentially what the direction of the relationship is and how these items can relate to one another. We have 4 options here: one-to-many, many-to-many, one-to-one, and many-to-one. This may be confusing for some, so let me explain it this way. A one-to-one relationship essentially means we can only have one region and one destination related. No region can be related to any other destination, and vice versa. A many-to-many relationship means that any region can be related to any destination. And we understand that this won't work either because a destination only exists within a single region. So what makes a bit more sense is probably our one-to-many. A one-to-many relationship means that we can have many destinations within a single region. Now, the left side of this is essentially referring to the content type we're currently in. We're looking at our regions. So one region can have many destinations. Perfect, that's what we want. A many-to-one is just the exact opposite of that, but we'll choose one-to-many. Then we'll click Save. And now we have added a relationship called Related Destinations to our region content type. Now, if we click on the pencil icon next to Related Destinations, and we scroll down, we can see here the exact mapping of our parent and child in this relationship. Again, we created a one-to-many relationship, so our parent is the region and our child is the destination. It can sometimes be a bit confusing to know which is the parent and which is the child, so if you ever have a question about that, you can always click on the pencil for the content type and view the relationship here. Now, it's important to note that if I were to delete this relationship field for any reason, we cannot undo that. When we delete a relationship field on a content type, all relationships between individual pieces of content or contentlets that are a part of that relationship will be permanently removed and can't be restored without us manually relating all of those individual contentlets again. Therefore, we strongly recommend you have recent backups of your data before deleting a relationship field from a content type. Now that we have our relationship between region and destinations, let's actually apply that to some content. I'm going to go back to my site browser. And here in my training folder, I'll click the blue plus sign in the top right and add a new page. Here, I'll click the dropdown and I'll choose the region page. Then I'll click select and we'll give it a title. This one we'll call Africa. We're creating it in the training folder. We'll use the default template and we'll scroll down and you'll notice our related destinations field. Here we can click the relate button and we get a drop down. We can see relate or relate new content. Now, I can relate this to existing destinations. I can just click Relate and then choose one of my destinations. I'm going to choose South Africa. I'll click the box next to South Africa, but you'll notice I could choose any one of these. I could relate more than one pieces of content at a time. Now that I have South Africa selected, I'll click Relate, and we have built a relationship between our new region we're creating, Africa, and our South Africa destination. Now I'll click Publish. That'll save and publish that. We'll go to our preview, and here we can see our page, which of course doesn't yet have any content on it. So you can see how creating taxonomies with tags, categories, and relationships allows our content to be more easily managed and organized, and allows our end users to search for content and our content contributors to more easily create dynamic content.